The eviction notice was taped right in the middle of my front door, bold red letters, county seal, the whole official-looking package. And the signature at the bottom. It belonged to the one person I least expected, or maybe the one I should have expected all along. Karen Wilson, the HOA president who had spent every waking second trying to force me out of a home I legally owned. But here's the twist. A few days later, she was the one being dragged away in handcuffs while the whole neighborhood watched. I should probably start from the beginning before everything spiraled into legal chaos. My name is Jason. I'm 26, a remote software developer, and I did something most people my age only dream of. I bought my first home outright in cash. No mortgage, no debt. Just years of living frugally with my parents, working late nights, investing smart, and deliberately avoiding every unnecessary expense. And when this modest 3-bedroom house in Meadowbrook Estates went up for sale, outdated kitchen, ancient wallpaper, hideous green bathroom fixtures, I saw opportunity, not flaws. Within a month, the keys were mine, and the deed had my name on it. I expected neighbors to welcome me, or at least nod politely like normal suburban folks. Instead, I got whispers, side-eye, and a creeping feeling that I'd just walked into the wrong cafeteria table on the first day of high school. And at the center of that cold front was Karen Wilson. Picture the classic HOA Karen template, mid-50s, stiff blonde bob workout clothes, even when she clearly wasn't working out, and a clipboard she held like it was the Constitution itself. Our first interaction happened at exactly 8 in the morning on a Saturday when I was still half asleep and expecting Amazon, not wrath incarnate, in yoga pants. She stood on my porch, chin lifted like she'd discovered a trespasser. Before I even got out a good morning, she scanned me from head to toe with a judgment so sharp it could slice through drywall. "You don't belong here," she said. Straight up. No hesitation. Like she was reading lines from a script she had rehearsed in the mirror. She demanded proof of ownership right there on my porch like she was law enforcement, and when I asked who she even was, she introduced herself with the smugness of a queen announcing her coronation. "I'm Karen Wilson, president of the Meadowbrook Estates Homeowners Association, and you are clearly too young to own property here. I've already filed the eviction paperwork." Then she shoved a sheet of paper into my hand and walked away like the evil stepmother in a low-budget Disney remake. I stood there in my pajamas holding this random notice, wondering if I'd accidentally moved into an alternate universe where HOA presidents had government authority. Spoiler, they don't. Not even close. But Karen didn't stop there. Oh no, she escalated like she was training for the HOA Olympics. First came the fake violation notes. My trash cans were visible. They weren't. My lawn was overgrown. I had literally just mowed it. My car was parked illegally. It was in the garage. Then she started slow driving past my house every other day, taking photos like she was building a case file for a judge who didn't exist. At one point, she told a couple walking their dog that I must be running some kind of illegal operation because, in her words, no one that age buys a house without doing something shady. And then came the envelope. A manila envelope in my mailbox with an official notice claiming Meadowbrook Estates was a 55-plus community, which it absolutely was not. I had read the bylaws front to back before buying. There were no age restrictions unless Karen had spontaneously decided to start her own retirement village and forgot to tell the rest of the county. I called my real estate attorney, who sighed the way people sigh when they know they're about to say something obvious. "She's making it up. Document everything." So I did. Security cameras went up that night. Not because I wanted to spy, but because Karen had made it clear she wasn't done trying to bulldoze me out of the neighborhood she thought she owned. 3 days later, Karen came back with reinforcements, 2 HOA board members trailing behind her like nervous interns. She tried to barge into my house under the excuse of a compliance inspection, but I blocked the doorway with the confidence of someone who had actually read the bylaws. I pulled out my phone, opened the PDF, and politely asked her to show me where it said homeowners had to be over 55. The 2 board members shrank a little, refusing to make eye contact. When I said the conversation was being recorded, Karen practically vibrated with rage. She stormed off while muttering, "This isn't over." And for the first time, I genuinely felt afraid. Not for my safety, but for the possibility that maybe I really was in over my head. I'd only lived there for a couple of weeks. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have allies or backups or that one neighbor who secretly hated the HOA and would slip me insider information. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that night, wondering if I'd made a mistake buying a home here. I had dreamed of independence, of finally having a place that was mine. But what was the point if someone like Karen could make me feel like an uninvited guest in my own house? For a moment, a real moment, I wondered if she was right, if I didn't belong here. But the universe didn't give me long to sulk, because the next morning things went from annoying to full-blown illegal. A county eviction notice, complete with official formatting and signatures, was taped to my door. A real terrifying government-looking eviction notice. My stomach dropped into my knees. My hands shook. I imagined sheriffs showing up and hauling my stuff out while my neighbors nodded approvingly behind their curtains. But something about the letter felt off, so I called the county clerk. After 10 seconds of scanning her system, she told me the notice was fake, and worse, it had been filed using forged credentials. Credentials belonging to one Karen Wilson. The call was immediately transferred to the prosecutor's office. Suddenly, this wasn't just HOA nonsense. This was criminal, and if Karen wanted a war, she was about to lose it. I gathered everything. The fake violation security footage of her trespassing, copies of forged letters, screenshots, witness messages from neighbors. When I handed it all to the prosecutor, she raised her eyebrows like she couldn't believe the sheer audacity of what she was seeing. Impersonating a public official, fraudulent legal documents, harassment, embezzlement suspicions. It was enough to open a full investigation. Detectives dug deeper and found exactly what we all suspected, plus a whole lot we didn't. Karen had been running the HOA like her own private empire. Fake amendments, forged signatures, fabricated meeting minutes, unauthorized fines, mysterious fees, and even a stash of personal files on almost every resident. 2 weeks later, while I was working from home, I heard shouting outside. I looked out my window and saw police officers leading Karen out of the HOA office in handcuffs. Her face was a cocktail of outrage and disbelief. Neighbors stepped out onto their porches, whispering, pointing, staring. No one defended her. Not one person. "This is ridiculous," she screamed. "I was protecting this neighborhood from outsiders, from people like him." She jabbed her finger toward my house as if I were a disease she'd been tasked with eliminating. But the only response she got was silence, and then, surprisingly, a few scattered claps as officers pushed her into the back of the patrol car. Charges piled up fast: fraud, forgery, impersonating a public official, harassment, embezzlement of HOA funds. Her bail was denied when investigators found out she had burned through most of the HOA's money and her own, trying to maintain the image of a perfect, powerful suburban queen. At the next HOA meeting, I walked in, half expecting glares. Instead, people apologized genuinely. They admitted they'd been afraid of Karen for years, that she bullied anyone who challenged her, that several neighbors had wanted to leave the community entirely. The interim HOA president, a retired judge, pulled me aside afterward and said something that honestly shocked me more than anything else. "You know the house you bought? Karen tried to buy it 5 years ago. Her mortgage application was denied. She never got over it." Suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't about rules, or community standards, or preserving property values. It was jealousy. Pure, bitter jealousy. When Karen finally faced sentencing, she lost whatever composure she had left. 18 months in prison, $50,000 in restitution. And when she stood up in court and screamed about maintaining order, the judge added a contempt charge. She was dragged out of the courtroom, still insisting she was the victim, still claiming the neighborhood needed her. And that's where my story ends, not with a party or a victory barbecue or neighbors tossing confetti onto my lawn. Just the quiet reality that someone who tried to ruin my life was finally stopped, and I could breathe again in a home I worked so hard to earn. Because sometimes the biggest battles you'll ever face aren't the ones you expect. They're the ones you fight simply for the right to stand your ground where you belong.